for the next presentation.
For your time.
Okay, the next presentation is the third presentation, the recommendation system for machine learning, mapping user experience by Luiz Agner, please.
Hello. Let me share my screen. Just a minute. Okay. Are you seeing the screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes? Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon. This is a work made by me, by my colleagues, Professor Barbara Necyk and Professor Adriano Renzi. We are the three designers, and we are also professors of design in Rio de Janeiro. We teach in 4 different universities in Rio de Janeiro. This is an exploratory and qualitative work. The goal of our research is to discuss the usability and communicability of streaming media recommendation systems from the user's mental model point of view. We studied the content consumption on Netflix in Rio de Janeiro, identifying sensitive aspects of the interaction with the users and the recommendation algorithms of Netflix. Today, we are facing the problem of information overload and an increasing amount of options to choose from in several fields of our lives. Choices we have are about videos, music, books, travel, restaurants, courses, and so on. Frequently, making a choice may be a challenging and complicated task for us because of the amount of information we have. So machines are much more efficient than human beings in managing data and in learning from the data. So there are the computer programs named the recommendation systems that have a lot to help us supporting the task of creating generalizations and helping us in the decision-making process. The recommendation systems can be defined as algorithms designed to suggest relevant items to the user. These algorithms are increasingly employed today in commercial service we use daily, like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Facebook, etc., etc. The recommendation systems aim to solve 2 types of problems: prediction and ranking. Prediction is when data is used to predict the evaluation a user will give to an item. And ranking defines a list of items to be presented to the user. According to Panday, the goals of recommendation systems are the following: relevance, novelty, serendipity, and diversity. Relevance is related to items that should interest the users. Novelty is to try to recommend items users do not know yet. Serendipity is to try to recommend surprising items to the user. And diversity is related to the internal variability in a list of items presented to the users. Recommendation systems use collaborative filtering approach as well as content-based filtering approach and other approaches. Collaborative filtering methods are based on past interactions among users and the items. collaborative filtering can recommend complex items without an understanding of the content of the items. That's because it's based on the assumption that people who have agreed in the past will also agree in the future, and that people will like items that are similar to what they have liked in the past. Content-based filtering approaches need additional information about users and items. They need a description of each item as well as a profile of user preferences. In this case, keywords are entered to describe each item, and also user profiles are created. And we also have the hybrid recommendation systems. Netflix is an excellent example of hybrid recommendation systems because its recommendations are based not only on browsing habits, but also in similar videos. Let's talk about a little bit the user experience and the machine learning. According to Lovejoy and Holbrook, machine learning is the science of helping computers discover patterns and relationships in data instead of being programmed. As more user experience incorporates machine learning, UX designers have a lot to learn about how to make users feel in control of this new technology and not the other way around. When users interact with these systems, they influence and adjust the kind of effects they will see in the future. Then these adjustments will change the way that users interact with the system in a kind of a feedback loop. The problem is that often the users cannot make the systems do what they want. Usability research has observed that these algorithms are not transparent to users. Users do not identify actions considered by the algorithms and do not have a clear understanding of the outputs. To users, the list of recommendations often seems random and meaningless. The machine learning algorithms create categories and group items according to some obscure and not mutually exclusive rules. These groupings make sense from a strictly algorithmical point of view, but they go against the intuitive way people build information architectures. Badiou, a UX researcher, pointed out the black box problem. Users perceive the systems as a black box with mysterious inputs and outputs out of control. Users need developing a mental model about how the system works. The systems need to be clear about how users can change its results. Not only are the people unaware of the universe of possible inputs, but there is a significant delay between input and output. This creates higher confusion to the users. Occasionally, imperfect metrics of relevance hide items of interest from the user. Repeated recommendations, as well as session-specific arts, thumbnails, descriptions, and headings, increase the cognitive cost of interaction to the user. According to Badiou, there are some UX guidelines that should be considered by the machine learning developers. I will present just some of them. Be transparent. Inform people which actions are considered by the algorithm. This is to help the user build a mental model. 2, provide easy controls. Give the user means to reorganize the output in a way that is more familiar to the user, and do not repeat items within several categories. Also, Harley, another UX researcher, suggested some guidelines. Transparency, these are some of the guidelines. Transparency of data source. The recommendation system should be clear about what user data is tracked and processed to generate lists. 2, allow users to improve recommendations. It's necessary to provide a method of entering feedbacks or editing the data used to create recommendations. And 3, response time. If users choose to optimize their recommendations, they expect the results to be immediate. There are also other guidelines that associate human-centered design to algorithms, like the Microsoft's guidelines for human AI interaction design. They focus on comprehensibility and controllability. Well, which are Netflix's algorithms? The videos on Netflix are presented 8% based on the recommendations algorithms, and the 20% last are presented in the search algorithms. So according to Gomes and Hunt, Netflix algorithms are the following, each one with specific methods and goals: personalized video ranker, PVR, top-end video ranker, trending now, video similarity, SIMS, the continue watching, evidence, page generation, row selection and ranking, and search with 3 algorithms in the search. About our interviews. Interview is a qualitative research technique. According to Courage and Baxter, there are several types of interviews depending on restrictions and needs. A semi-structured interview is a combination of structured and unstructured types. We applied this kind of interview, the semi-structured interview, to a convenience sample of students from 4 different universities in Rio de Janeiro. We asked the students about the following issues: what influences users to find new videos on Netflix platform? How users identify where their recommendations are? How users explain the way Netflix's algorithms work? What users could do to improve their recommendations? And we also asked about data protection and threats to privacy due to the use of user navigational data. So we won't have time to go into details about the user answers. I invite you to read the full article for more detailed information about the answers. I just would like to highlight a few examples of the answers. Like this one, quotes, close friends influence me directly. Netflix suggestions are completely random. Or this other one, the algorithm on Facebook works great, but on Netflix, I have no idea because it's so commercial. Or this other one, quotes, I spent a lot of time away from Netflix for not receiving a relevant recommendation. Or this other one, Sometimes they put recommendation, but I don't know if I can identify where the recommendations are. And also there were users worried about their personal data. I would be sad if Netflix made my data available to another company. There were also some manifestations of conspiracy theories, like this one. I'm very suspicious of these things. On the cell phone, sometimes you are talking about something, and then a lot of advertising starts to appear. Or this other one, my data is all sold. Facebook was selling our data while Zuckerberg was investigated. Then I had a credit card cloned. She was establishing a link between Facebook and Netflix. And there are also some conspiracy theories involving politics. Quotes, I watched The Edge of Democracy and loved it. The Edge of Democracy is a Brazilian political film that was nominated to the Oscar. I watched The Edge of Democracy and I loved it, but I'm not sure if they are going to create a list of all people who are interested in the Netflix left-wing movie. Got it? Well, let's talk about conclusions and notes for discussion. Human-algorithm interaction emerges as a new frontier of studies involving user experience, design, and interface ergonomics. The sample of interviewed users, although small and convenience sample, highlighted aspects of the interactions Brazilian users had with the recommendation algorithms, such as Netflix's. We agreed with the UX researcher Harley and Budil. To increase user satisfaction, designers must consider the requirement that interfaces based on machine learning algorithms be transparent. Interfaces should inform clearly about which actions are considered to create the recommendation lists. We realized that users had not correctly understood how the system works and have not formed a mental model about tracked data. As Roca said, explainability is so important. Users must understand why a particular item was presented, or they may lose confidence in the system. Therefore, UX designers should make obvious how the system tracks and processes user interaction data. It would be recommended to help users build correct mental models, as well as deconstruct the black box feeling. Another issue concerns data privacy. Users have shown a suspicion to what might happen to their data, not only in Netflix, but also in other services that use algorithm-based recommendation. When asked about privacy, there were fears of political surveillance, restrictions of the information freedom, and even credit card hacking. An interviewee reported the concern that the platform would share her data with other services. The suspicions can be associated with the conspiracy theories pointed out by Lovejoy and Holbrook. Users did not seem to be aware of what actions they could take to generate more relevant lists. Responses seems to indicate that UX designers should provide a better way to encourage users to record feedbacks or to edit their user data in order to create better recommendations. As Basilico said, Basilico is a Netflix researcher. As Basilico said, the recommendation problems have not yet been solved since each user is unique and has a wide variety of interests. Therefore, we can say that UX designers must keep in mind that they still have a lot to learn and still have a lot to contribute to the reinforcement of the user's control over this new technology. References, and thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for a very, very interesting paper. Any question, please? So I'd like to know, Agner, because it's a very broad study. I'd like to know about the future of this study. What do you think about it, and what can be the limit of your study?
This is basically now a qualitative and exploratory study, but we intend to continue the study. For now on, we cannot generalize the conclusions to a more broader population. And that's because we have so few and so a convenience sample of interviews. So we intend to futurely try to expand the sample and address other case studies of platforms that use machine learning, like Spotify, Google News, Amazon, and also expand our sample, because our convenience sample was just young university students of Rio de Janeiro, students of design and students of advertising. And we will also plan to futurely apply some focus groups with developers of recommendation systems.
And do you plan to extend your research because now it's focused on Rio de Janeiro? As I know that some cultural background can be factor of decision of user experience. Do you think experience for other culture or the part of Brazil or the countries?
That would be very nice and very important. We have limitations, and so for now on, we are going to spend the study in Rio de Janeiro and probably in other states of Brazil. But Professor Adriano, is now in Vancouver, Canada. He is living there, and probably he will try to expand the study there. I think it's so important, your suggestions to expand the studies to other cultural backgrounds.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marcelo.
Okay, let's move on.